All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast. I'm Kyle, and we're here with Trevor. And we're here with a couple special guests from the band Soul Exchange. So, how are you guys doing? I don't know if you want to do just like a quick introduction
Yeah.
of who you are.
You want to go first?
Yeah, my name's Austin. I'm the vocalist for Soul Exchange. I've been in and around with these guys for a long time and just finally got a project started together. Um, Bryce asked me to come on board not too long ago, and then we pretty much hit the ground running from there.
Yep. Bryce, play guitar, and Soul Exchange and Virtue here in Austin.
Nice. So Soul Exchange, Bryce, it was you and Grant, right? Who was also guitarist in Virtue,
Yeah.
who kind of started this thing and just getting this going.
Oh yeah.
You guys look like you've been in and around the scene for a long time. So why a new band?
So it was actually about a year ago we started it. I was actually on vacation visiting my mom for Thanksgiving last year, and that was when I remember like Googling trying to find a name for it. But yeah, Virtue was kind of in like a weird spot about a year ago. After coming back from COVID, we were a lot of bumps in the road trying to get everything back on track. And so me and Grant, we wanted to start another band. Probably like right around COVID is when we started thinking about it, because Grant wasn't in Virtue at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, we just thought that was the right time, since Virtue was kind of slowing down a little bit. But now both are busy, and I have no time for anything else.
It's a good problem to have, though, right?
Yeah.
So, Austin, you guys are down in Austin, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Any relationship to Austin, or just coincidence?
Yeah, I mean, I went to college here around like the 2011, 2012 time frame. So I have some like subtle roots here, but then I moved back to the Houston area. That's where I've been for like predominant most of my time. And so, I mean, I love the city. You know, I think it's very on the nose for sure that I'm here, if there is anything. But you know, so I just love the city, the music venues, obviously. The scene here is just, there's so much untapped potential, I think, just in general. So being able to be back involved with just a lot of my early friend group, especially from the band days, has been just really nice.
That's awesome. So I live up in Dallas right now.
Nice.
I am not from here. I moved down. Me and Trevor are both originally from Salt Lake City.
Okay.
But I've been trying to like get more involved in the Texas scene, you know, and it's very different to what we grew up with, because Utah's so small that it's like you have like the Salt Lake City scene. Even people that aren't from Salt Lake City are usually like Salt Lake City hardcore, and it pisses a bunch of people off. Texas is really interesting though, right? Because like it's like its own little microcosm, each city. You know, you seems like you've spent time in both, right? Like, do you notice clear differences between that?
Oh yeah, like even from from Austin to San Antonio, it's vastly different, especially different times of different years. Even like there's like real big spurts of really heavy scene involvement just in different cities. You know, I think for a long time, I'd say 2015, 2014 time, like Houston was not really popping by any means, and now we've seen a lot of really strong bands come out of like the Houston area. San Antonio is like a little bit smaller, but those kids are insane. They absolutely go crazy. It's kind of like the hub. I think for Austin for a long time, San Antonio was kind of like the hardcore hub to go to.
Yeah, Austin and San Antonio are like basically just one giant metro area at this point.
Yeah, it's getting so, right. Yeah,
like tourists typically don't go to both, so we either swap back and forth depending on where they're coming.
Yep.
Do you do that drive? Is that like doable? Because it's what, like maybe like an hour and a half?
I live in a small town called Buda. It's like basically South Austin. It takes me like 45 minutes to get to North San Antonio.
Yeah,
dude, that's like my drive to go to Denton to see shows. So it's the same city.
Yeah. No, when we play up, and because we played in Killer's Tacos and then with Virtue and his old band Bitter Taste.
Yep.
Like once you start to get into DFW at the bottom, it's like another hour drive before you get up to Denton up there.
Yeah, it's crazy. So no, we've talked about a couple Texas bands now, and it's been a ton of fun because it definitely has like a unique feel I feel like so just so you guys know, like a big part of this podcast that we do is we try to find smaller bands in different parts of the country, and then we showcase them and try and, get them, I don't know what the word, some exposure, around the country and stuff. So we've been very fortunate to we've been very fortunate to like meet a bunch of people in like South Carolina. We've had friends in like Philadelphia, Alabama. And one thing that we've noticed is like each of these areas kind of have their own sound.
Yeah.
Texas is very like thrashy metal influence. Is that what you guys grew up on? Do you recognize that? Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I grew up in St. Louis. So I'm from the Midwest.
Oh, okay.
But growing up, like Pantera was like my favorite band.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think probably the first time, like as a younger kid, like hearing, like the Black Album from Metallica 100 times from my dad and stuff like that. It's like that was just Metallica in general, and then getting into like the heavier side of what Metallica was, and then just really bleeding into those early like hair metal bands, things like that. My parents were very into like Southern metal and things like that, which just kind of brings those sounds together, I think, overall.
Yeah, my dad was the same way. Listen to all the same stuff.
Yeah.
So Bryce, when did you relocate to Texas then?
I've been in Austin since 2014.
Okay.
So
you've had 10 years.
Yeah, I'm basically an Austin native at this point.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean,
we
like,
always get mad down here with people moving here just because traffic is so bad all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone transplants. I was actually going to ask you that. How have you guys seen the scene change or stay the same over the last 5 years, right? I mean, you guys got Joe Rogan and essentially everything changed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, everything changed with COVID pretty much. I mean, the city itself is like way different. It's because it's with the live music capital of the world, which we still have a bunch of like shows and venues and everything like that. But a lot of the tech companies and stuff come here, and it's changed like the entire landscape of the city.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, just general, just the gentrification of things, like venues losing their rents and things like that. So there's a lot of venues that I grew up with, and I'm sure even in the last 5-10 years that are just no longer here, that were like staples of the Austin scene, which I think made it difficult for bands to really kind of flourish and grow, which is why it's such a big kind of like bump on Virtue, is like they've pretty much been like the Austin hardcore band for probably 5 years now coming on.
Yeah, we've been a band for 7 years at this point.
Yeah, so like claiming that kind of that crown for a while, and so Austin's a tough place. Like there is so much music and so much local music that it's tough to really kind of spread who you are, I think, in a fast enough way to kind of keep you salvageable, whereas in other cities, it's just like everyone is so just ready for more and ready for new stuff that it makes it difficult. When there's just such an abundance of things here that it makes it a little bit difficult sometimes.
For sure.
Isn't that's kind of a funny way to look at it. Like we talked to Mike Perez from No Bragging Rights, that is from Riverside, California, I think.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how hard it was growing up because it was too accessible, right? Like he's like, I could go pay $5 to see a local show, or I could pay $15 to see like a touring band, or I could pay $30 to see the Offspring. And it's like, it's hard, right? Like it's a different way to look at it than like growing up in a scene where you're just dying for bands to even go, you know?
Yeah. That's very, very oversaturated here. Like we actually have the Bane Stick to Your Gun show happening right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and you guys are talking to us?
Yeah.
Look, man.
Yeah, Grant's there. Yes. Like Grant is there.
Oh, sick.
They rolled through here 2 nights ago, and I was a little bummed because Dismadre's playing and Dare. Those are cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool California band. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the Dismadre guys lives in Dallas.
Oh, really?
DFW area. Yeah. Virtue played at Killer's Tacos in Denton a couple years ago, and one of those guys was there. It's a real small room. He murdered everybody in there. So sick.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me happy. So we actually started getting a little bit more involved with the Austin, San Antonio scene a little bit, just because we started talking about, was it Fortunes? They were San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
San Antonio, man.
And then when we were out at Furnace Fest, we met a couple people from the Austin area. So we met a guy named Sean. He goes by like Death by Ramen on social medias.
Yeah.
Yeah, we chilled with Sean for like pretty much the majority of the days out at Furnace Fest and stuff. And he turned us on to some more bands and things along those lines too. So we're starting to get a little bit more involved down that way. But like, if we're talking about like the different pockets, right? So how is the San Antonio Austin scene a little bit different from, let's say, DFW or Houston? Like, what sets you guys apart?
I'll let you handle Houston. I don't know anything about Houston.
I mean, I think like, again, I think there's just a difference in just general taste in what like an idea of what hardcore and just metal music is in general. I think there is just a different version of what it means to different people in those cities. Whereas like in San Antonio, it is almost like a melting pot. In Austin, I think it's like a melting pot of sounds, whether it is the thrashy side of things or what that looks like. And then you get to Houston, and there's a lot more of like the deathcore and death metal influences, beat down, like those kind of like more aggressive kind of style things. A little bit lacking on some of the like just like riff wise, and more in like the, I'd say like fan service, those kind of things that really get the crowd going. And no hate at all. Some of those bands down there are insane. There's some crazy like Corpse Pile and a lot of those bands, Girl Glass, that are just huge. They're getting really big now, and it's almost like they're bringing back like 2008 deathcore, and they mix it with some hardcore elements, and that's like a Houston kind of thing. Whereas I think here it's just like it is a lot of thrash. It's a lot of like more I guess what you could say is more like stereotypically traditional hardcore, if you will.
More on like the punky side.
Yeah.
Which is the kind of hardcore that I don't necessarily care for. I like some of it.
And I mean, Dallas is...
Dallas is the hot spot for sure.
Yeah, it is the hot spot. Yeah, there's just, between Dallas and Oklahoma, those are kind of like the place. If you can make it to those places, those people will love you forever. Those like, they just show out. Kids love it.
There's so many bands from up there that are popping off.
Yeah, good.
I don't know if it's just more accessible up there, whereas like down here we're kind of off the beaten path of like a typical like tour route. I don't know if that's what causes it or what the deal is, but
I do think that like we probably get more tours through here than y'all do down there.
Oh, for sure.
Because I just think it's an easier path to take, right?
Yeah. But
what's interesting about the scene up here that I've noticed is like I'm part of the problem, but like everyone's a transplant, especially the last, I don't know, 5+ years that I've been here. Everyone's a transplant, right? So like no one knows each other. It's really weird going to shows because it's like nobody knows each other.
Yeah.
So
yes. And Fort Worth to Dallas is such a far drive.
It is.
Denton.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably a difference between like San Antonio. Like San Antonio, Austin is like everyone knows everybody here. Yeah. It is very
close knit group.
Very close knit. I think it's gotten a lot better about like the whole like. I think gatekeeping was like a little bit of a hard thing in certain Texas areas for a while, where they would be like, nah, like we only like these section of bands, but I think we've really gotten away from that in the last few years, and people are just generally more accepting regardless. But there is a tight knit group of individuals that kind of run the scenes here.
One of the big issues with Austin is the promoters and things here. We most of the big shows that come through, we have like some bigger corporate kind of promoters that kind of run all the main venues down here. So we don't really have a whole lot of DIY kind of stuff. We have DIY, but not like the mid-level touring packages that come through. Yeah. We don't really have anybody that picks those up around here. So they typically don't come to Austin.
That's interesting.
For
bands around here to get that kind of notice and play in front of those types of
bands. Yeah, that's super important, right?
Yeah.
That's like a calling card to hardcore, is like local bands always get a shot with bigger bands that come through.
Yeah. I mean, you like go watch Terror or something, Scott standing side stage for the entire show.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been lucky here in Salt Lake. We have kind of the same problem with the big tours that come through. There's just a couple corporates that book out like our bigger venues and stuff like that. But we're lucky enough that Salt Lake had a reputation that we were a hardcore town, right? So earlier this year, I got to see Madball in like 150 cap room. Like it was wild. And we had just local support just Madball. Like it was great. And there's a couple promoters now who are really pushing the local scene really heavy, and they're making connections with like Pacific Northwest, California. We got some like Vegas bands who come up and everything. And it's like, it's really starting to thrive again. So it's interesting how it kind of comes and goes. Because when we were growing up, we very specifically pretty much went to the bigger, I shouldn't say bigger shows, but the national touring packages. That's kind of what we spend a lot of time at. Salt Lake, though, originally, like the types of bands, metalcore we were listening to, there was like 30 to 50 kids there. You know, so it was still small. It was still close knit. Everyone knew everyone, but it was like the more corporate promotion. Getting into hardcore today and stuff, it's definitely trending more DIY. The scene is getting a lot more local. It's great. So
yeah. My old band Insurgents, we played in Salt Lake back in like 2018 probably. It was like a super DIY. It was a like a band rehearsal spot.
Okay.
Played in like the big room of it, and there's like graffiti all on the walls, like all the hallways and everything. It was pretty gnarly.
Was it like right down Salt Lake, like by an old mall?
I couldn't tell you. This is like 6-7 years ago.
Oh, it's all good.
It was a pretty gnarly little spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is Insurgents the one that Grant was doing vocals for?
So Grant was the merch guy. He always,
okay.
But he did fill in on a tour for vocals once because the singer got sick.
Which is okay.
Yeah, but he always toured with Insurgents.
Sick. And, I was listening to Insurgents today, so
nice. Our bass player Pete, he played in Insurgents also.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. Yep. I was only in the band for about a year. They toured way too much for me.
So what does that look like for you guys today? Because Soul Exchange, you guys just dropped your latest EP. What Two Faces of Shame? Is that what it's called? Perfect. Awesome. So what is kind of the plan? Like, are you guys looking for tours? Are you guys looking just to kind of be that local support for the time being? What's going on right now?
Yeah, so we're trying to get on the road. We played our first show back in July. We played four shows in Austin. We haven't announced this yet, but it's nothing big by any means. But Virtue also has a new EP coming out this Friday, November 15th. And so we're doing like a Texas like dual EP release kind of thing.
Ooh, sick.
That's going to be next month.
Yep.
And just San Antonio, Houston, Austin, just a weekend so we can go back to work on Monday morning. But yeah, that'll be the start of it. And then next year, hopefully we can find some cool stuff to do.
Yeah. I think like we're all like grown adults with jobs and, we have some limited PTO and stuff like that. Like
I don't get PTO.
Limited. But I can't imagine that we are like, yeah, let's go on the road for 3 months at a time, but we absolutely want to package our product as something that is valuable. And I think that that's what we're doing. I think we all come from bands that have seen success in their own right in the past, that we just know like what we want to sound like and those kind of things. Everybody's real professional with each other, which is honestly sick. It's not like we're 18 in a band again and with like, you all have to rely on 15 dudes to get where they need to go. It's much more like, here we are, we know what we're doing. I think that we want to show value in what we do. Like we're doing these kind of podcasts and we just had an article released on No Echo the other day, and we're just trying to do things like that really does showcase the work that we're putting into it. So that way we do have the opportunity to, potentially be on these bigger packages or do Texas style runs here and there and really just make ourselves known outside of this where we are. Texas is vast for sure. And, you can get a lot of love just being in Texas, but my goal is to get outside of it for sure.
For sure.
And just, I've never been to the East Coast. I've never done that with any of my bands. And so I think that we have a real shot at doing that with this one. And so it's just been pretty much like kind of a nice little bow on it, right?
Yeah, it's been very, very nice, streamlined. It's the easiest band I've ever been in, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, after you guys have 12, 15 years of experience doing this at this point kind of thing, Like, you know how it
we're all
goes.
in our 30s as well, so we've been doing this for half of our life at this point.
Yeah.
That's
So
incredible.
let's talk a little bit about this EP.
Yes, sir.
I honestly can't remember how I came across it, but I don't know if you guys remember. I think I messaged you guys like when you dropped your first single earlier this year, or like I posted it and said it was good. But like I've been a fan since the beginning because I think
Nice.
the sound you guys have is awesome, right? And
Appreciate that. Yeah,
um,
Grant runs our socials, so I have no idea.
okay, well, all right, we'll blame him. Not that I'm like looking for like validation or anything, but I just want to make it a point that like, yeah, I like your guys' music.
You're a
and
day
stuff.
one. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly. So, but yeah, so what drew you guys to start in this band? What was the like conscious effort on the sound you guys created? If you just want to give a little info on that.
Yeah, so with Virtue, we kind of had it's like Texas metalcore beatdown kind of stuff. I am much more of a fan of like 90s hardcore and it's like the riffy, like metallic hardcore stuff. So Marauder, All Out War, those kinds of bands are definitely what I was trying to do with it. But yeah, we me and Grant kind of started everything. We got Pete, our bass player, involved pretty quick, and then our drummer Colby, he had moved to Austin in the last couple of years. He played in a band called Fortune's Fool from Colorado, and so we had played. Virtue had played with Fortune's Fool several times in the past, so we were very familiar with that. Got him on board. Had a couple guys in Austin that we tried to get on vocals, but you know how that goes sometimes. Randomly enough, this guy moves from Houston, and we're like, dude, we got to snatch him up.
Yeah.
So, how did you then decide that you were going to get involved for vocals and stuff? Did you just?
I love these dudes, and like my old band Bitter Taste, we played a lot of shows all over Texas, and Virtue was one of one of the bands we played with several times, and just had a good rapport with them. And then Grant was a part of. There's a promotional company here in Austin called Come and Take It, and they actually own a venue now, but back in the day it was like a small little kind of group of like 5 or 6 dudes that were just running a little promotional company, and then they got bigger and bigger, and now they're like one of the ones that like book like big shows, and it's really cool. But Grant, basically I was back in like, I want to say it was probably like 2013 2014 maybe. I had like a deathcore band that did like a battle of the bands, and Grant was one of the judges on it, and that's how I met Grant like 13 years ago, and it was sick. We had a lot of love for each other then, and we just knew each other throughout the years. And one day, I was in the process of working back and forth and moving here, and Grant just messaged, he sent me a DM on Instagram, was like, yo, here's this Google Drive of songs that we written. What do you think? And I was like, I was itching. I mean, I had been years like saying like BT was like my, Bitter Taste was like my passion for a long time. And then same thing, COVID happened. Our guitar player at the time, his name's Chris. He's the guitar player for I Am out of Texas. If y'all have ever listened to them, sick. Texas Death.
Yeah, they're on tour with Life Cycles, right? Or I guess just got done. Both Chris, amazing bands.
Yeah, their guitar player was Bitter Taste guitar player for a long time.
Okay.
And so we, I Am at that time was getting huge, so we were like, of course, like go do it, and we just kind of all sputtered up. And it was years since I really got the opportunity to do vocals or just really be in a band again. And it was, it's a release by all measures, right? So as like an angry dude, it's something that I can get my stuff out with, and I just resonated with the music. I love the fast pacedness. I love what it is, and I felt like it was something I could write to pretty easily. I feel like my style of vocals is not necessarily like traditional hardcore by any means. Yeah. I think I have more of that like death metal, deathcore style to me, which I think kind of makes us more of a unique band kind of altogether. And I just, I was like, here's my spin on it, and they liked it. So
that's awesome. I mean, I like hearing about, kind of getting involved and you feeling like you kind of really related to the sound. One thing that we noticed is the EP, like you can sense how, I guess, easy this like sound or, the songs you wrote kind of came, because it didn't feel forced. It felt unique. It felt, I don't know how to explain it. Like it just felt really fresh what you guys did. And one thing we talked about was, how like accessible that the EP sounds, because there's a lot of like EP. You sound like you guys have been doing this for a while, I guess is what I wanted to say. And it really shows, right? You guys have been doing it for a while, and it really shows in this EP, because when we turned it on, we were just like, yeah, these guys they're great musicians. This doesn't sound like it was like a pain to get out. Like everything sounds so like well done, so
Dang. Well,
Yeah.
appreciate that. Love to hear it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
So one question I have for you, I did read through the No Echo interview, which was great. One of the things that was brought up, though, is that shame, obviously being in the title, though, is the key theme throughout the album. So, Austin, are you the one writing the lyrics and stuff, too, at this point?
For sure.
So that's a very heavy topic. Specifically, I was reading through Isolation Grip. That song's heavy, like lyrically, there's a lot going on here, man.
Yeah.
Like, what is your process in putting this out? And this is a very vulnerable state for you. How do you feel putting this kind of stuff out?
Yeah, I think like I say it to the dudes sometimes, because like, I'm married now. I have like much more of like, I would by no means am I in this like dark spot. So it's difficult to write. So I have to come from a place of like where I was in areas and time points of my life to really like make that the concept. I'm real big on like concept albums, but making it very like personal concept albums. And so I love when things flow together and they like make sense and almost tell a story. But I do very much so think that there is much more resonation that comes like from a group perspective if you were the one telling that personal story. And I think for me, there's a lot of periods in my life where it was like, really questioning how I would just like understand my own emotions and like what that looks like on the surface and underneath the surface, and like the concept, there's two faces of that shame and how it comes out. It can be very aggressive or very reclusive. And I think that in a lot of those words that I was able to write, it kind of accents that outward aggression, but with a very like internal perspective. And it's vulnerability. I think it just resonates better with people. I think hardcore itself is kind of about that. In my mindset is like the pain and anger and aggression. I know there's a lot of politics and things like that also come into a lot of hardcore. But I think that like just that the ability to like present yourself to the public and without any regard, I think is very, very, it just resonates well with people. And it has with me personally. Like whenever I see people write lyrics like that, it gives me just it just gives me like a really innate sense of like, oh yeah, I completely understand where this person's coming from in these moments and what that looks like for them. And so for me, I've always wanted to be able to write like that. And I look at very personal points of my life and I elaborate and I make those and I just try to figure out how to vocalize those in a way that makes sense.
I really appreciate lyricists where you guys can put this on paper, because like, listen, I'm not a musician by any means. I can dabble on the guitar. I've played the piano kind of growing up and a few things like that. But like, I've tried writing some lyrics just for fun, not necessarily to be in a band or anything like that. And
I think that's just called poetry.
Shut up, Kyle. But what it turned into, like, I had something happen in my family where it was super. I had a cousin pass away, and unfortunately, it was from an overdose from kids who he thought were his friends who gave him laced pills. Yeah. Like, just, super unfortunate. And I started writing like these lyrics thinking about like my cousin and like missing my cousin and like wanting him to be here. And it just turned into a stream of F words about F those other kids. Like it just turned into like extreme, just like hatred and stuff like that. And I messaged one of my friends and I was just like, apparently I have a lot of unresolved anger issues underneath. And he's just like, dude, it's a good thing, man. Like, it's a good thing to be able to like work through some of that and think about it. And you know,
Let
I
me
was
get
like,
it.
yeah, it was weird.
Sound like,
So
those sound like lyrics to a beatdown band, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
it,
Sound like a San
it could
Antonio.
be.
yeah.
There we go.
it's funny.
Um,
Anytime, like anybody you meet that knows me, like I'm like happy go lucky pretty much all the time. I'm like just like super like golden retriever vibes. Like I'm just like all over the place, 100 miles an hour all the time. So there's like when you read lyrics, that like dynamic between like who I am naturally versus what those lyrics portray and show. It's just a vast difference. And like you see me on stage versus how I am in my like normal life, and it's just completely different. And I think that like you said, being able to get those lyrics on paper, whether or not they're verbalized good or not, but I think like getting them out there is just something that's been such a weight lifter for me that it's not even funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the song "Bleed,"
Yeah.
whose idea was it for the like random singing part in it?
Yeah,
All right. Were you just sitting around one day and you're like, dude, what if you like kind of sing this part?
Yeah. No, I'm big on like switching tongues and those kinds of things.
Dude,
So
it works.
I was
It
like,
works.
yeah, that would fit perfectly on this part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I had written some lyrics for it, and he was like, I got it in my head, and I was like, okay. And then when he actually did it, like we didn't know. I had written the lyrics, but I didn't know how he was going to phrase them or how he was going to sing them. And then he just sends us this rough demo. Like I go over to record my vocals, I go home, and he sends this like rough demo the next day, and it's like him singing, and I was like, whoa, dude, that's crazy, man. We had no idea. I didn't. He did, apparently, but no idea. And it came out awesome.
Yeah,
It's
it's probably
awesome.
my favorite part of the whole record.
Yeah. No, it really is. It caught me off guard the first time I heard it. And I was like, oh, dude, that's actually really sick.
Yeah.
Respect. Like, respect.
Yeah.
So, how did you guys get into music in general, right? How did you, Bryce, get started on playing guitar? Austin, how did you get into vocals and stuff like that? Like, where did you guys begin with everything?
Yeah, so my older brother was a teenager in the '90s, so he got me into like all the new metal and Pantera and stuff like that. I started skateboarding in like the early 2000s, and with that comes punk rock, and like all my friends were giving me all these different CDs and stuff. I was learning how to play guitar at that time, and then randomly found, because like the Casualties and the Unseen, AFI, some of the more aggressive punk bands were the ones that really stood out to me, and just randomly found metalcore after that. And that's like 04, 05 probably, and haven't turned back since.
And you wanted to be asking Alexandria at one point, and
No, I never got it. There was a couple of the crabcore bands that I was okay with in high school, but I was
always
much more
is.
into like Parkway and
oh heck yeah,
that kind of metalcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I was really lucky to get started really early. I was, man, I was really into like, obviously some hair metal here and there because my parents' influence, but I was like into like early like R&B and rap and stuff like that growing up. And then I had a good buddy of mine who we played like sports together and things like that. And I went over to his house like the first day, and I walked in his room, and there was like Ozzy Osbourne posters and Pantera posters. I was probably like maybe 13 years old, and he was like, "Yo, I'm joining this band," and I was like, "I don't even know what that means," And he was like, "You should learn how to play bass." And I was like, "I don't, I don't know. What do you mean?" And so he was like, "Don't worry about it. Just get a bass and we'll figure it out." And so I got a bass that year. I was 13. I got a bass that year and a little stand up, little Ampeg amp. And he taught me how to play a few things on the bass. And I went and tried out for the little band that he was in. And we ended up they were like sick. I could learn really quickly. I could really have like a visual learning that I could just pick it up. And even at like 13, I was playing like actually kind of ridiculous shows for like a 13-year-old. We were in this little metal band that it was like metal, traditional metal, and the name was As the Palaces Burn. We were literally just a rip on Lamb of God, and we played like these big shows in Houston. There's one called Freezer Fest, which was like like Planetary Duality from the Faceless had just come out, and they were like the headliner for it. Upon Burn
Jeez.
Body was like before they were signed and stuff. Like it was.
You were 13.
I was 13.
That's
Oh
wild.
my gosh.
And I was just like, ripping the bass. There's this badass venue back in Houston called Java Jazz that's no longer there. It was like basically like a coffee shop, but like it was kind of similar to what you described, like graffiti on the walls. It was like a 200, 300 cap venue, and they had graffiti on the walls, but it was like the bands that were coming to play. So like I got to see like A Day to Remember there and Paramore there, and it was like literally like a 200, 300 cap venue. It was absolutely insane. So we were playing these shows that were just ridiculous for like what I was, and like looking back on it, I'm like, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I had no idea that we were playing these shows with these insane bands. Like Tony Danza was on one of them. Like it was just like,
Oh, so sick.
That's way cool.
bands that we had no business playing with. And so, but like at that time, I was like really into like Parkway. I was really into like early deathcore, like BMTH, and like A Day to Remember, things like that. That really kind of like started to shift me a little bit more into that realm. And then I like one of my favorite bands of all time is August Burns Red, like just like metalcore. And then I found the Doom EP from Job for a Cowboy, and that kind of like just changed my whole trajectory of who I was. Just like, dun, 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 dun. I was just like, this is the sickest thing I've ever done. And that was like trajectory. So we started another little band after that one. It kind of fizzled out, and originally I moved from bass to guitar at that point, and we had a buddy of mine who was a much better guitar player than me, and he was like, I want to be in on this. And I was like, oh, and I was like, I'll do vocals, I guess. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was like doing inhales for some reason, like it just wasn't, I was like, when's a plague, sick, and but that transition, I just watched videos, learned how to do it, and he just kind of took me from there. And I love being the center of attention just in general. I'm really insane. So I was like, I was like, I was like, I'm meant for this, And so from there, just kind of went in, and then eventually, the Kublikans and the hard, like the early, like hardcore metalcore kind of things, just like kind of got into my stream of things, and just kind of changed how I thought. And now I've been in that realm ever since.
It's so funny, like the way you guys are describing it, it's us. Yeah. And we've said this to like multiple people, right? Like Kyle has the older brother who got us into kind of the punk, all of that kind of stuff. We were massive into Parkway. We were massive into A Day to Remember. My deathcore band was As Blood Runs Black. Like that's the one who took me down deathcore. And then the funny thing is, like, hardcore was always there, right? But they weren't the wild and crazy vocal changes and things along those lines. And so, like, I didn't appreciate hardcore until later on.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's ridiculous to say, right? Because like the messaging's typically better, like all of that kind of stuff. There's more emotion involved to it. But as a 13, 14-year-old kid, I wanted to hear Mitch Lurker get as low as he can possibly get and then go into some crazy shrieks, Yeah,
in high school was when I first started being like playing guitar. I was like, man, I'm actually pretty good now. It's like, nice. I want to jump to play all these like hardcore bands that are nothing but power chords.
Right.
And then I saw the first hardcore band I think I saw was Your Demise.
Oh, sick.
Like 2009, 2010 or so. And just the energy of that. And it was at like a metalcore, deathcore kind of show. It was Oceano and Miss May I was like the headliners for it. Great. And just this random British hardcore band showed up and everybody fucking killed each other during it. Yeah. And I was like, yep, that's what I want.
Killer.
Oh, we love that stuff. I remember seeing Gallows at Warped Tour, and it was kind of the same thing, Like we were there for all the hardcore, or we were there for all the metalcore, deathcore, and stuff like that. And then you have like a Gallows, and Salt Lake is notorious for not circle pitting, and it was a massive circle pit, So it was like that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we I think I wonder if it like slowed us down to get into hardcore because of MySpace. We just got caught up in. It's like, oh yeah, I can go listen to Drop Dead Gorgeous instead of the good hardcore bands at the time.
100%, man. Like
Yeah.
I was like so into like Amur and like bands like that like I remember the first time I saw Amur, they were playing with Wretched, and it was like just breakdowns and then death metal, right? Like it was just like Wretched was like and then the first time I saw Amur, I was like, yo, this is insane. And like they had like two steps and stuff that like I had not really heard in the deathcore style of things, and so just that kind of groove was just so cool, man. Like it was just really like, and then that gravitated towards those like true, more traditional hardcore bands where someone like just I get it, it's power chords, but man, they are monstrous.
Oh yeah, that's just fun.
Yeah,
yeah. I was really into Amur and all this in like 07, 08.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I saw them with A Day to Remember and The Millionaires. Is that what they were called? Dude off stage.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Dude, tour packages back in like 06 to 09 were ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure it was like a one-off Warped Tour date. Like
sure.
Like a day off, they just did like a random thing in Memphis.
Oh man! So where did you guys fall on the Amur Acacia Strain beef?
Oh, that was tough at the time, man. I was like, no, because it ruined my life for a minute. I was like, these are like probably my two favorite bands at the moment. Man, I'd probably still follow Acacia Strain. Those dudes are just. I think they've done so well with just what they do. Like you hear them and you know it's them, and yet every album is something different and something special. I've had a lot of people tell me that my vocal sounds like Vincent, which I'm not mad at. That's it literally is so cool to me. And he is a huge inspiration for me. So like I would probably have to go. I think just the way he controls his voice, his lyricism is insane, especially the early, like very pissed off, sad Vincent, right? Where he's all like good and healthy now, still sick, but like a different kind of like pissed off.
I definitely appreciate the Acacia Strain a lot more now, but I was Team Amur back then.
Yeah, I can't blame you for it.
Listen, like musically, I was listening to a lot more Amur than Acacia Strain. But once you start like diving into like who Vincent was versus who Frankie was, I was like, I probably gotta lean on Acacia Strain a little bit more here.
I remember going to like Amur's like MySpace or whatever, and their descriptions like kill or be killed. I was like, nah, that's too cheesy for me, man. No, we're good.
Yeah, and Amur fell off pretty early, and the Acacia Strain just never put out a bad record.
Just consistent. No, for sure.
I'm still seeing Acacia Strain shows that are like, I've been doing this a while, and even I'm like, that looks violent.
I remember like I had an old buddy of mine, one of my old drummers, he showed me like, it was like, I think it was 2008 or 2010 at the Palladium, and it was the Acacia Strain, and it was the dumbest thing that I've ever seen in my life. It was, oh my God, they played like Car Bomb and shit, and it was just like the murders of murders that were happening. It was just that made me want to be in a better band.
I almost got my leg broken at an Acacia Strain show. And like,
for real?
Yeah, it was Whitechapel's Welcome to Hell tour, and it was Whitechapel, Veil of Maya, the Acacia Strain. It was like one of Chelsea Grin's first like big tours. And I think maybe Oceano might have been on it. But I got pinned up against this bar, and my leg was like bending back just because
man,
it was so packed. So I got out of there, luckily.
Well, that's good. I just barely caught them. Well, not barely. It was like last year when they were on that Dying Fetus tour, and I hadn't seen them in a minute. And they're just so good. They're so fun live.
Wild tour.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen the Acacia Strain.
Yeah. I think I saw them at like the Warped Tour before the last one, where they came out with like the purple orange cabs. They had It was like black with the purple screens, and I was just like,
yeah, those are sick.
First of all, that was amazing, and then they were like the tightest band that I've ever seen. their stops and it's just so tight. And I think that's kind of like what we kind of pride ourselves on too, is just tightness. It's just, you got to be tight.
For sure.
I appreciate them for bringing like that whole genre or era, like generation of normalizing windbreakers in hardcore. Cause dude, I still like get down to a nice windbreaker at hardcore show, you know?
Down here in Texas, we don't really get cold enough for
I know.
anything bigger than a windbreaker.
Yeah.
So I'm about it.
Yeah. So,
So outside of music, I've been creeping on your guys' Instagrams a little bit, and you guys are both pretty active on doing different things. So outside of music, what do you guys do for fun, for health and wellness? Like, what do you guys do?
Yeah. So I play on a baseball team here in
I
Austin.
saw that.
Yeah, me and Christian, the singer for Virtue, we it's called the Parakeets. It's like a men's league baseball. Super fun. I played baseball from 4 years old all the way up to through high school. Didn't play for 10 years. COVID happened. Was just bored. There was no music or anything. So I taught Christian how to play ball, and then we joined a local team. Been at it ever since. But
like fast pitch, you're not doing.
Yeah, it's real baseball.
Okay.
Yeah, I broke my foot about a month or so ago, so I had to miss the last half of season. But
Oh shoot!
yeah, we'll be back.
Did you break it like sliding into something or just doing something stupid?
I drive a truck for work. I fell off the back of my truck.
I mean, dude, you could have lied and like no one would have known. So
yeah, that's true.
Honestly. Yeah, I mean, myself, I'm real big into the weight room, you know, working out, things like that. I was a big boy for a long period of my life. I was like, I think at one point I was like 315 pounds at my heaviest. And, you know, good old depression, you know, and, you know, I think that kind of like shaped a lot of my like lyricism and things like that. But I met some good buddies of mine that were like really big into like, they were like, I'm going to be a bodybuilder, you know, and they were like real heavy into the gym, and they just were hounding me. And so I got in there and I found like almost like a catharsis for like what that was and what I was going through, especially without having the vocals and the ability to be in a band and things like that. And that's just been like a kind of a pretty like religious thing for me. And, you know, I'm like at my lowest, I'm like 205. So pretty much 100 pounds down, and like just been like it's just a whole new world when that's who you are now. And so, I think that's a big one for me. I work a lot. I'm married. So there's that too, you know, that is a constant, like, what can I do? You know? But yeah, I mean, it's been a heck of a ride for sure.
It's awesome. Well, guys, we seriously appreciate you. The EP, Two Faces of Shame, is absolutely incredible. Honestly, like I've probably ran it 10, 15 times since it's dropped and everything. So it's fantastic. You guys said you're doing a mini tour coming up here. When is that happening?
It's December 13th through the 15th.
Yeah.
So it's just a weekend.
Yeah.
A weekender?
Yeah.
And what are the 3 stops again?
So San Antonio, Houston, and closing out in Austin.
Back in Austin. Sick. And that's with Virtue. Is there any other bands who are going to be like on that, or just locals with that as well?
Yeah, just locals. Some of our friends, Fear of Loss from San Antonio. They're going to play a couple dates. And then the Houston show is really cool because Bayway from New Jersey, they're sick. Coming down to Houston. They're playing in the same venue.
Oh, sick.
So it's going to be like an inside-outside stage kind of deal.
Like
interesting.
Like a toy drive kind of thing, you know. Yeah, it's just for the kids. It'll be cool.
That's way cool. That's way cool. And then what about new music? Are you guys getting back into the studio soon, or like
talking about
a little pause?
Yeah, we haven't done it yet, but
yeah, we've been already like, all right, let's write some new riffs. You know, I know he already has some stuff cooked for sure. I think we want to definitely give this EP some love for sure. We definitely put a lot of work in it. I know they've been sitting on it for a long time, and I feel really good about the lyrics and how they came out. And I love when people share in that kind of that pain. And so I think I want to be able to like showcase that. And I think we're all on the same page with that for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I produced both that record and the new Virtue.
Oh,
And
sick.
timeline wise, they're both just coming out on top of each other. So I want to break for a little while because I've been busy with this stuff since, like I said, like the same time last year.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to chill for a minute.
Well, personally, that's a bummer because I'd like to hear more. But we'll do what we can.
It'll be soon.
Yeah. We'll keep sharing stuff. We'll post links to your guys' socials and we're gonna drop an episode tomorrow where we just kind of talk about you guys in another band, and then we'll release this one. But
Cool.
anything we can do to help promote either of those bands, help you guys out, let us know. We're big fans of you guys and the music. So come up to Dallas, and
Yeah.
I'll get rowdy for you too. So
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
We'll be there soon.
We'll definitely be there soon.
Good.
Robert from Ballista, who does like the COTC booking up there.
Yeah.
Good friends of ours. He's trying to get us up there, I think, in January.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Sick.
we'll see. Virtue was just in Fort Worth last month.
But I don't know where I was, but I'll probably I died for a little bit after Furnace Fest, and I'm finally back alive. So
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, the run that Virtue just got back off of was like a week after Furnace Fest.
Yeah, it's probably
Death.
Yeah.
Probably why.
yeah. My hands I sprained my hand moshing at Furnace Fest because I'm old now. So
Yeah, straight out.
but I think I'm good now. I've been
Got these,
punching the wall, getting ready.
got these Velcro knees over here, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Breaking my foot, I'm like, man, I have a whole new appreciation for the human body
Yeah.
because this shit sucks.
Dude, I saw Bitter End a month before Furnace Fest, and
Okay.
I don't know. The Bitter End was this one's for all the old heads, and some kid turned to me. He's like, "Dude, this is for you," and I was like,
Oh man.
"What? You put the guy
upset.
behind me?" But then I moshed for 3 songs, and then I had to go stand in the back, and I was like, "Yeah, nah, he's right."
Yeah.
But look, if you guys play a quick set, I'll come out, I'll get rowdy for a little bit, and then I'll chill in the back. So
100%.
Hey, there you go.
Got
Pick
you.
your favorite song, come out.
Yep.
yeah.
Sick. Well, before we let you go, shout out a couple of your buddies, Austin bands, San Antonio bands. Who should we be looking at other than Soul Exchange and Virtue?
Yeah, so I mean, in Austin, you've got Beyond Reach, Houses We Die In. San Antonio, you've got Fear of Loss, Inner Self, a bunch of bands down there.
Yeah. You got some Houston bands. I think if you're into that kind of more slammy deathcore, like I said earlier, you got the Corpse Pile dudes that are really, really popping off right now. They all have their side projects and things like that. I think, you can never say enough about I Am.
Yeah.
A couple of the dudes in there are I think hopefully doing a little side project of their own too, and I'm really excited about that as well. So be on the lookout for a little side project from Houston. Can't give you too much details on it because I don't even think I'm supposed to be talking about it. But there's members of Sledge from OKC and things like that. So there's cool dudes doing good stuff. So just be on the lookout for that. But a lot of really cool stuff around Texas.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, guys, we seriously appreciate it. Again, go check out the Two Faces of Shame EP. Again, Soul Exchange. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Peace.